couple of different things. There's a couple of over-unders. Who will score more points on Saturday, Oregon or Utah? And who has the most must-win? And I know it's non-conference USA right now, but which team in the Big 12, in your opinion, faces they need a win?
I think if either Baylor or Tech are 0-2, I don't know if I can outweigh the scales of that. That's really bad and not what they wanted going forward, because 0-2, really to not even for the conference race, but just where you're going to wind up in the postseason if you make it there. It gets worse and worse as the more losses you have. But I think Oregon's going to score more points than Utah. I think that Tech and Oregon game is going to be a ridiculous shootout, and I think Oregon has shown a little bit more ability. I mean, you saw it last week against Florida. Like, when they're in control, they can just sit on the ball, and when you try to get aggressive with them, they can just clap you back a little bit.
Well, one coach is on the hot seat, so I could vote for that team that needs to get a win. Tech's not firing Joey McGuire anytime soon. Baylor fans, I think you poll them right now, it's 50-50 or 51-49 on what they would like to see done. And I think if you poll on who likes Dave Aranda, it's like 95-5 that everybody likes him, because there's just some grouches that, they still want the guy from a decade ago. But, besides that, I think that most everybody is rooting for him to be successful, but also looking at the whole grand scheme of things, you can't just keep, spinning your wheels. And it just feels like that's what they've kind of been doing now for over a year. And for that reason, I think that, Baylor needs a win much more so than Texas Tech needs a win. Now, look, if Tech goes 0-2, then that's going to be something. But, Mack Rhodes was on these airways, and he was vouching for Dave Aranda, and I don't think he was giving him the dreaded vote of confidence necessarily, although if you want to read it that way, you could. But Cody Carlson, Texas Tech's big donor, put out like a page-long message board post, basically backing Joey and telling him, like, hey, we've invested everything we can invest, and we've done everything we can do. We just need to trust the process, basically, was his message to Texas Tech fans. So I think that, you at least look at, we were on the road, tough, weird place to play, late Saturday, and you lost in double overtime, okay? You were dominating that game in the first half. You lost in double overtime. Are there concerns? Absolutely. Baylor, they trailed like the entire game at home.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, like, at 6 o'clock, there was no reason for them to look as bad as they did. I don't care what the reasons that are given are. There's no reasons that justify that fully. So, again, I think I've laid it out pretty clear from, why I think that, and I think, it's very clearly Baylor. As far as the points scored go, I know Oregon's going to score points because I know Tech's defense still has some issues, but I don't know what to expect from the Baylor-Utah game. Like, I know Utah's going to win this game. That I feel good about. Although there's a part of me that's like, man, just everything given the last week, like, could Baylor, puff their chest up and make this interesting? I definitely think that they could. But I'm just so confused by what we saw last week that, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what to expect, really. So I guess I'll go.
Well, you know why? This is what I expect. And you're right. Who knows how you respond?
I'll go Utah is going to score more points. But, I mean, that Tech-Oregon game is set up for both sides to score a bunch of points.
45 or something like that.
So I'll go Utah, but I'm not really confident in that. Not nearly as confident as I'm 100% on the who needs a win more.
Paul, who scores more points?
I think Oregon does, just because of the nature of what that game is going to be. It's just going to be like ping pong. Like, so
damn, that sounded pretty good.
Yeah, that's how it's going to look. And I don't even think that's an indictment necessarily on Oregon or Texas Tech defense in the long run.
Right.
And we'll see how they are. It's just there are certain teams and matchups that just led themselves to that kind of a game. And I do. Like, that game feels to me, like TCU Colorado last week, where, look, whoever makes the 2 or 3 key defensive plays at moments is going to win by a score. I really do, and or maybe 2. I don't think it's going to be out of hand. I just think that if you can make, like in the TCU Colorado game, 2 interceptions in the red zone, that's really what swung the game to Colorado.
Yeah.
TCU didn't make those kind of plays when they had to. If Tech or Oregon make those kind of plays in Lubbock on Saturday night, that's what's going to swing the game and what's going to be a shootout, because you've got And you've got, I mean, there's there's going to be so much crazy atmosphere there in Lubbock that, some of that like Oregon, confidence that they're rolling off of 81 points against a nobody, will just go away because there's going to be, drunk Red Raiders hurling tortillas all over the place. It's going to be wild.
Yeah, I think that game lends itself to more points being scored. So that's probably the correct point. I think the
All right, how about
numbers
this?
probably point to that being the case. But yeah, I mean, I was just thinking if certainly that's a nice little side assist. I guess weapons-wise that Tech has at its disposal is that crowd and is the atmosphere, and I do think that that's going to come into play. But that's a fascinating game because if you get beat convincingly, like in that game, like let's not be stupid and talk hot seats and all that kind of stuff. But I think there's like, whoa, what's going on here? Like after the offseason they just had, if you start off 0-2 and that loss to Oregon is not like a close game where you're like, okay, at least you're right there, then I think you start to get a little nervous as a Tech fan of what that's going to turn into over the long haul of the season. But yeah, I think obviously that's a much different scenario than what's going on in Waco right now.
Yeah, no, it is, and maybe the question should have been who wins. If Oregon and also Utah win, who wins by more points? And the reason you may want to say Utah, that's the way it looks set up, but they're not a team that goes out and put 50 points on a board. They're not they go out and grind you like freaking sawdust, and they don't make mistakes. They're plus. By the way, their turnover ratio last year was +6. It wasn't like +12. Baylor's was -2. Baylor, I think, won the turnover battle. What did they not on Saturday, 2-1, and still couldn't convert with the ones that they got.
If Utah scores 50 points against anybody, that team that means that they had 5 50-yard touchdown runs on counter plays that just broke open.
You mean like the one TJ Finley scored on from the 60?
Well, that's possible.
I mean, like those things, but that's what not that he doesn't go out trying to score 50, but Kyle Whittingham knows that based on his game plan, that if he gets to, last week 24 against Florida was going to be insurmountable. If he gets to 35 against Baylor, he's going to feel pretty confident. He knows most weeks with the defense that he has that if he's at 31 or more, he's going to win the game. So he doesn't necessarily have to think like, man, we got to score 7 touchdowns in this one. Now, look, when they play USC, Oregon, Colorado, who do they play in the Pac-12, there might be some games where he's got to get in that shootout mode, but early on in the season for Utah, he knows that defense is good enough to where you get them in the 30s, they're probably going to win a game.
Paxton says the Oregon Tech game is 68.5. 68.5 is the over on that game.
I'll bang the over on that.
Over-under.
Yeah.
40, that just looks like it's 45-40, something like that. We'll see, unless it just gets complete. And even if somebody jumps out to a lead, if Oregon gets out to a big lead or whoever, both teams are going to put up some points, you would think. Get ready in a minute when we come back.